Hello and welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. My name is Death by Pony, and we're getting to the end of the Derek DLC, so it should only be a few more episodes. So without further ado, let's hop. Terms of understanding circulated as the group filed into the apartment. Derek took on the role of host with vigorous and encouraged his guests to get comfortable as they accepted the hospitality and seats were taken all around. Well, how's your day been? Yeah, what were you up to? Mrs. Suarez's enteredly pleasant tone was followed up by the openly nosy inquiry from Nicholas. However, neither had forgotten the curious holdup at the door. We had a great afternoon and talked about some very important things. Isn't that right, Ari? As usual, when he ended up in awkward positions, Derek took the strategy of technically not lying, but leaving out crucial details. Yep, that's it exactly right. That's nice. Miss Suarez didn't mind not getting the real answer that she knew existed. She always did. Nicholas shrugged. He wanted more, but was mature enough to not demand it. As soon as another sharp ring in the doorbell came, you and your sister perked up at the sound. It had to be your parents. Liz disregarded the fact that this was not her apartment and headed straight over to answer the door. You hurried to catch up with her. Liz tugged the handle, and there on the other side were the soft faces of your sweet mothers and the more sharply features, but no the less kind, Mr. Holden. Many hellos and good to see yous were said in succession as the Payne family joined the Suarez land in Derek's living room. It's a real party now. Not yet, there's still one thing missing. Let's talk toppings. Derek took a page out of his mother's book and offered an explanation to the newcomers who had to have wondered.
What do you think?
We're getting pizza, if that's cool with you. Yum. That's fine, sweetie. No complaints here.
Nice.
Perfect. With this size crowd, I'd say we should get 3 large pizzas. A friendly round of suggestions and debate over the most ideal topping split. More than one person wanted meat and veggie supreme. The Suarez parents both loved that one and had grown on their sons as they grew. Most have agreed that having at least a couple simple options made sense, and Derek declared that he'd get his favorite chicken barbecue. Since he was the one making the order, he couldn't be stopped. No one else in the group had any intention of ruining that for Derek. It was incredible to see him decide on something purely for himself. That's how the plan of 1 full meat and a veggie supreme, half cheese, half pepperoni pizza, and half a pizza of chicken barbecue was determined. You left the last half up to the rest of the group. After a suggestion for the last half, more cheese, an extra half of pepperoni, like another. How about all veggies? I like all veggies, so I'd enjoy that. The rest of the room accepted your idea as well, and I'm gonna order something besides pizza. Chocolate cookie, brownie, cup of cola, root beer, wings. And I love cola, so that'll be all. Nix and George were emboldened by your special request, and they hadn't realized it was an option until you broke ground. Each of the younger Suarez boys asked their big brother for a soda, root beer for George, and orange for Nicholas. Derek gladly accepted the request. After it was all said and done, Derek made the call to the local pizza place, and he had it arranged for delivery. He glanced over the attendance once he finished that task. Ugh. Foods ordered. Situation avoided.
Yeah.
We've got some time to kill. Can I get anybody a drink? That goes for you 3 already getting something too. You don't have to wait to hydrate. What a kind host. Some requests were made for water. Seats were taken to settle in for the wait. You got comfortable on a couch yourself. Derek collected 2 armfuls of water bottles and then went around the room passing out drinks to each person, even those who didn't ask for one. It seemed staying refreshed was not an option after all. It was an order. You and the others near the coffee table got served first when he went around the dining table to catch the ones hanging out there. It was busy in another section of the apartment. That's what you knew from the last time you'd caught sight of Derek from your position. And that's why a jolt went through your entire body when a low voice tickled your ear. Ari? You certainly turned your rigid neck to glimpse behind you. Derek was there resting his arms across the top edge of the couch as he swung back around while you weren't looking. As he processed the situation, Derek grinned cheerily, unapologetically about the shock his move gave you. A soft thump could be heard in the air. It was your heart, though it might have been. You guess on the other side of the couch, he was tapping his heels together.
So?
I just wanted to ask if we were keeping us a secret. He didn't have to tell you what that meant. No, we shouldn't, and this would be a good chance to talk about it. Our families are both here. Besides, they can tell something is going on already, considering the cozy position you've taken and the secret conversation we're having right in front of them. Good point. He pushed off the couch to full height, though continued to grip off the white fabric and backside of the couch. Well, a new patting sound could be heard near Derek. Needed an outlet for his excitement building up and found it through jamming his fingers against the cushion. While we're all together in an area, I have got to tell you all something. Ah, you're in a relationship? Really now? Dad!
Is that wrong?
What? Is that wrong? We were not aware of what Derek... Were we not aware of what Derek felt about Ari? Miss Suarez groaned loudly and hid her face in the palm of her hands. George put his hands on his hip, giving his dad a hard look. Your own parents were too sympathetic to their child's predicament to comment or laugh, though they were clearly dying too. Maybe not. We have no idea. Don't steal their thunder before they've said anything. He's right, Gregor. Let them talk. Mr. Soares stroked his beard thoughtfully. Oh, sorry, kids. Derek, please keep going. What did you want to say?
Okay.
Yes, forget I said a word. My lips are sealed. Derek shot you a look that was both apologetic and encouraging. He turned back to the waiting eyes of his family and snatched his cheek. We're dating. Okay, everyone, meet my new boyfriend, Derek Soares. Amir and Derek, you know what Mr. Soares said. Way to spoil it. You went over and took Derek's hand. You wanted Derek to explain it himself. Okay, everyone, meet my new parent. I love it. Hello, hope you approve of me dating Ari. He gave us a short wave. Derek closely drew you in close to his side in front of a delighted crowd. The parents were instantly elated by the news. Miss Soares started clapping and knocking a shoulder into her husband's side.
Very good.
I hope that was gonna be the news. This is amazing and quite a surprise, too. Mom bent forward with a chuckle and loudly snorted. Life is full of surprises, but most of them aren't as good as this one. Ma hummed, nostalgically reaching over and threaded her fingers together with Mom's.
Yes.
I'm grateful Ari could find happiness with such a gentleman in the end. Ari's an excellent kid, and I know for a fact that Derek's a great guy. I'm sure things are going to work out for you two. George slowly shook his head off the side. Her crooked smile grew.
That makes sense.
You two together, it just makes sense. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Thanks. This means everything to me. Thank you so much. I promise to do my best by Derek cross my heart. I'm officially Team Soares now. Sorry, family. Team Derek's on my team now. On Team Payne now. Sorry. Glad my boyfriend comes with good and loss. Placing a hand over her heart, Miss Soares glanced at her husband and he matched her tender smile. We're grateful to have you. We couldn't have dreamed of someone better suited for our Derek. Derek rubbed the back of his neck out of embarrassment, but you caught him peeking at you. Still, you wondered how you'd won the romantic lottery. A bold as a brass smirk hadn't left Liz's face, as to be expected from your big sister. Well, props to you, Soares, coming up from behind. Though I thought you lost your painfully long moment when you never said anything about crushing on Ari for several years and then moved away. Her jab hit the mark, making Derek shudder one eye. His characteristic grin survived the strike. I fumbled it more than once, I can admit that. But I did it now, and a win is a win.
All right.
Wow, more props. Liz Kane completely removed the weariness that was natural to her face, but when she looked at you again, her eyes were soft. I'm happy for you both. I cannot possibly imagine how romantic Mr. Let Me Do That For You over here could blow up in your face. Liz's encouragement was a huge deal to you, but the moment wasn't complete. Nicholas had been the only one in the crowd not to say for the entire event. That was strikingly uncharacteristic for the wild child. As his face was neutral, the absence of happiness worried you as much as sadness or anger would have, maybe more. Nicholas simply not caring seemed worse than him being upset, but you didn't need to doubt for long. In the end, he smiled. The look wasn't forced or for manner's sake. It reached deep brown eyes. You were so grateful. Your whole family, Soares, Payne, and Holden, could agree that you and Derek ought to be happy, and that should be happy together. And Derek was flushed with confidence after how well received the announcement was. He was Invincible. There was nothing to fear, so he steamrolled ahead. There's actually one more major news. At that point, he cut himself off, so excited as he was. Derek managed to roll his tongue and send a searching glance your way before saying more. It was understandable why Derek was so pumped. You'd been busy and had 2 life-changing decisions made in a single afternoon anyway. You loved ones heard about your relationship. Next, they'd need to learn about the move. You gestured a hand for Derek to go ahead. You can tell them, you whispered. You cleared your throat and get everything. I'll handle this. I'll let him announce that. He turned to the crowd with everyone's eyes on him. Derek came right out with it. Aaron and I realized things have been great the way they are and decided that they should move in here for keeps. We're going to be roomies. The crowd gasped and then went silent, but not for lack of feeling. Emotion was palpable, bubbling inside the shell of self-restraint. The first expression thought of the major news was Ma. You know, we wouldn't want you to live our lives for our... We wouldn't want you to live your lives for our sakes, but I have to admit, I'm glad you're going to be that close. Agreed, there's no denying this is exciting. Hey, we're practically neighbors again. That's good with me. Miss Suarez and Mr. Suarez shared a similar sentiment as your parents, and so did their sons.
That's great.
A smart plan for you two, I think. It's made a lot of other people happy. Hooray. Very nice. I don't mind having you around more. Hey, he doesn't mind. He was trying to act like a grown-up, but that gracious statement did not do much to hide the thrill coming out of every pore.
Yeah.
That's great. There's so many things we weren't able to do on this trip, and now we'll be able to do anytime. Nicholas played down his true feelings while George wore them openly. The oldest brother had to chuckle over the reversal. It was amazing and reveling to be welcomed home. You were more certain of your choice than ever. The wholesomeness of the moment wouldn't have been complete if it was only sweet. Liz cut in with a dose of snark that made the taste perfectly right.
Seriously?
Ah, sheesh, after 10 years of no progress, you're going at light speed now. Give me like 2 seconds. She looks so shocked. Oh my god. And just, I'm sorry, but that came like so quick. It was like, oh, that was mostly unexpected from me, but at the same time feels very hurt. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that caught me so off guard. Well, we were just storing up all our momentum for the right time. Now we've got the means to move full speed ahead. Laughter and light-hearted conversation continued on the walls of the apartment. Everyone was ready to pitch in with the move and had suggestions to offer. And then everything was put on hold when the third time the doorbell rang. Dinner's here. Nicholas made a beeline for the door, his 2 older brothers at his heels. All the spoils from the delivery driver gave polite thanks and promptly closed the apartment up again. George and Nicholas peered into the semi-opaque lids to figure out which drink was theirs, and Derek especially handed you the stuff you got for yourself. The feast was laid out on the counter in savory steam and very cheesy. Derek stood between the guests and the metal to make the declaration.
All right.
All right, everyone. In my house, instead of the youngest going first, the oldest do.
Good.
Ah, respect for our elders. How kind. I can't believe I'm considered an elder. How did I get so old? Mom and Ma offered comfort and condolences. They'd been members of that club for many years. All the grown-ups filled through as a big group, and at that point in their lives, determining who was truly the oldest of the old wasn't worth the trouble. When they picked over the cream of the crop, Liz made a clean sweep all on her own. You and Derek went next to get followed by George. Finally, Nicholas' turn came. With his mouth was hooked in an amused bend. Being last was a novelty, and he took his sweet time picking out the slices he wanted. Why not? He wasn't holding anyone up. Eventually, Nicholas selected his dinner, and the chairs around the apartment were filled with happy guests whose plates were equally full. It was a relief to see you and Derek's big announcement hadn't impacted anybody's appetite. Good food and pleasant conversation were enjoyed at Casa Derek. Nico went back to the boxes for a second and third without needing anybody's permission. After eating, George moved from the table to chat with Liz away from the parents. Nicholas abandoned the last bites of his 5th piece of pizza to scurry after his big brother. Derek stuck next to you as a rule, but there were cases when exception was needed. Well, this is your party, and Liz sort of, I won't hog you. You should get to see everybody who's here to see you. I'll be around. It was true. The two families had gathered for you and your sister to come on the final day of your trip. On your end, the event had turned into more of a welcome party than a farewell. The Liz still leaving, and you didn't know for sure when you'd be able to actually move. The time you had right now wasn't to be missed. Yeah, I will, thanks. Derek took a step back with a nod and a wave, and at least was someone you'd certainly see again soon. You went to see Miss Suarez and Mr. Suarez. You checked on your moms and Mr. Holden. We'll check on the moms and Mr. Holden. Your parents remained at the dinner table sipping on their water bottles and pretending to be nonchalant. They sent too many figurative glances between you and Liz to be convincing. Hello, sweetie.
Hey.
Hello, welcome over. What's happening? Hi, I just wanted to see how you were doing. We're great.
How sweet.
Aw, we've been having a wonderful time. I know this trip was for you and Derek, but I'm still grateful Pam and I could be here a little. Ma wrapped an arm around Mom, and with a light chuckle, Mom leaned her head gently into her wife, and they both beamed. Time together is more important than time apart. Every bit counts. Well said. I feel the same way. I love you, moms. I love you all. So glad I'll be coming back. I love you all. Us too, kiddo. Absolutely. Thanks. Mom brought you into an embrace along with Ma. Your parents held you tight for another minute before letting go. Like Derek before them, they didn't intend to monopolize you forever. You left them to their own amazing company and drifted back towards the front of the living room. We were going to see the Suarezes. Derek's parents were contently sitting together on the couch watching the scene of their children and their friends gathered together in one place, a rare joy. But when you approached, Miss Suarez pricked up from a peaceful reverie. He squished against the masseuse, patting the freed spot on the cushion. Mrs. Suarez had to physically support her husband in the initiative by catching his shoulder. Otherwise, he would have toppled right over into her lap. She laughed over the dramatic infringement on her personal space. Thanks. Don't mind if I do. You took the provided seat. It's okay. I can stand. You should clear your head politely. Don't mind if I do. After all the effort they took in order to make that available, you couldn't reject the hospitality. You popped down onto the pre-warmed cushion. Miss Suarez looked past the man draped over her, as if he was not currently attached at the hip, and made eye contact with you. I hope you've enjoyed our big city vacation, Ari. I definitely did. Glad to hear it. As the pleasantries faded off, the Suarez spouses shared a meaningful glance with each other. The weight of the occasion hadn't been forgotten. Well, we've got you here for something I've wanted to say. Did you know Gregory and I met at a similar age as you and Derek,
That's
technically?
true.
That's true. Ugh. Miss Suarez patted her husband's leg unconsciously while the gleam of a storyteller sparked in her eyes. We attended the same high school at, 14 or so, though we've never landed on each other's radar until senior year. He and I had shared a class here and there. We did not run in the same social circles or have the same extracurricular pursuits. I almost missed her. Can you believe that? I can. I cannot. What would I have done with my life then? Sometimes I wonder perhaps he'd be living in a mansion somewhere in the hills.
Well then.
Is that so? Is it? It's a worse fate than I feared. The longtime couple tittered and smiled rosily over one another. Meanwhile, you leaned closer. Here's part. The topic intrigued you. How had Derek's parents come together? You didn't interrupt in order to ask. You knew with certainty that Miss Suarez would explain without prompting, and she did. You see, Ari, Mr. Suarez, is a well-meaning man, but when he gets a lot of compliments, he believes them. There's no end to how big his head can get. Derek may have mentioned this to you, but Rio, as he was called in the glory days, was on the football team. The words football team were said with mocking exaggeration, as though she could stop the explanation there. It was obvious where this was going. He and all his footballer buddies had quite the egos and were such a clique. One, one complimentary random day in the cafeteria, him and the boys were acting like gods on earth, though they thought they were. They talked big and it was all crap. I spent my life tuning the whole set out, but this time I must have been sitting closer to the noise than normal, or in an unusual petty mood. Whatever the reason, I began to gab with my own friends intentionally loud enough to be overheard. I said with exaggerated wide eyes, innocent, how strange it was that the jocks acted as if they were the greatest men alive. How did they come to such a conclusion when they seemingly never spoke to a single person outside their team? What did they know about who's better than anyone else? Folding her arms and bouncing her shoulders, Miss Suarez still felt self-satisfaction over that one decade later. The team noticed me then, mostly to give me the stink eye, except for one, who I could only describe as befuddled. Oh, would you look at them? They look so cute. I know it's been like that the whole time, but like I wanted to get to a good point to break and say that. Because it's weird to cut off mid-story. So I needed a good breaking point to stop. Be like, look at how cute they look. The team noticed me then, mostly to give me the stink eye, except for one who could only describe as befuddled. I continued on pretending I had no idea what was happening at the next table over. We were having plenty of fun on our side of the crowd until all of my friends went dead quiet. That got me to check again. One of the footballers had come over. He was built like a broad brick, though his face was anything but hardened. Too goofy and almost boyish for that. It was Rio, the linebacker, of course. He leaned over the table and said in his low, somehow booming voice, "What do you think of me? Am I not great to you? Seriously? Irene and you were suddenly peers, sharing." I flustered over the brashness of some strange football man. You snuck a glance at the star of the scene. He was playing as naive as Miss Suarez had all those years ago, listening quietly, twiddling his thumbs. Yes, I couldn't believe it. I wasn't expecting any of them to actually care about my opinion. The obvious thought would be that he was trying to intimidate me, make me take it back. But he asked with such earnestness, I didn't even consider that possibility. I shot out instantly, "I don't like you. I don't know you." But I couldn't say I wouldn't like a man simply because he was on the football team. That's pathetic. Ping pong from shock to indigenous. I'm not going to try and pronounce it again. The outpouring of emotions reached its peak. Irene could be worked up no longer. She wasn't really a young lady recounting this for the first time. She knew the end of the tale, and despite being grown, it still put a schoolgirl smile on her face. Well, Mr. Suarez here had such a frown when he heard that. Truthfully, Derek looks the exact same way when he feels rejected, so you likely understand the position I was in. Someone so bright and bold with a face like that isn't right. It's just as if the joy in the entire world had vanished. That was too much. So I looked him square in the face and said I wouldn't give him the time of day for that, but I might be willing to get to know him sometime because he was a decently handsome man. Of course, that soothed Rio's delicate soul, and he said, then we should do that. We are people who should know each other. When he grinned down at me like that, I knew this was more than I bargained for. I'd better prepare. If he didn't forget about me, I wasn't sure I'd ever have it in me to give up on him. But so far, it's never come to that, and it never will. Rio had been so quiet the whole story, he simply needed to burst in at the end. I cannot remember seeing the Irene before that day in the lunchroom, yet as soon as I did see her, I knew I wanted her to think well of me. If she didn't, I must have been doing wrong. I'm thankful you approve of me still, even though I sneak our son extra treats and cheat with their video games. I can't be a bad man if Irene can look past it. Mr. Suarez hooked a hand around his wife's. You'd bet the grin he had in that moment was the same one Irene had originally fallen for. Aren't Be sweet. My mom does that. She makes the noise, and so it's something I've picked up from my parents. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, remember to like. That way I know you enjoyed today's episode. And then subscribe. That way YouTube brings you back here to see what happens next. Anyway, I won't take up any more of your time. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.